Hello everyone, this is Dan Miller from Bluegrass Unlimited magazine, and today we're going to talk about single string style banjo playing on the song Old Joe Clark. Over the last 2 weeks we arranged a straightforward scrug style and then a little bit more complicated scrug style, and today I'm going to talk about single string style. And as I mentioned last week, mostly because it's cool to incorporate some single string style mixed in with your scrug style and or melodic style, all three together. But sometimes I'll do in a complete melodic style arrangement, a complete single string arrangement and a melodic style arrangement, so that I can kind of see where the cool licks are, see where the nice little phrases are in those approaches, so I can pull them out and plug them into my scrug style. So today we're going to talk about single string style. Now I'm going to approach this like I approach flat picking guitar, or like I approach a melodic style of mandolin playing, where I'm going to fill in the gaps between the melody notes with other neighboring notes around that. You can approach this from looking at it in a kind of a context of using the scale, either the scale of the key or a pentatonic scale of some sort, whether it's a major pentatonic or a minor pentatonic or a blues scale. You can approach it from that angle, and that's a wonderful way to do it. But if you're not interested in learning scales on the banjo and you just want to figure out some single string licks, you can do what I call the neighboring note idea, and we'll talk about that as we move through this song. Now I'm just going to take maybe the first two-bar phrase, second two-bar phrase of the A part, and show you how I might approach figuring out a melodic style arrangement. I mean a single string style arrangement, and then I will just arrange the rest of it, because I don't want to take too much time in this video. We took 2 videos to go through the scrug style, A part and B part of Old Joe Clark, and I just want to finish all of this in one video, and I like to keep the videos between 15 and 20 minutes long, so they're not too long. So here we go. The melody we figured out to Old Joe Clark was, that's the first 2-bar phrase, right? We got, and that in itself right there would kind of be a single string arrangement of just the bare melody. I'm not putting any rolls or around that. And if you wanted to do a single string style, you could just do that if the song was going really fast. But it's not that interesting. And so what we want to do is figure out how to fill in the gaps between those melody notes with other notes that they're really from the scale, either a major scale, minor pentatonic scale, minor blues scale, or a major pentatonic scale. They're from one of those scales, but we don't have to worry about that. We're just going to call them neighboring notes and figure out which ones sound good and where they might fit. Like I said last time, sometimes when you're figuring these things out, you might want to shift a melody note, an eighth note this way or an eighth note that way. It's still going to sound like the song, but you might fit a nicer run, either ascending or descending run around those notes if you shift them here and there a little bit. So let's just take a look at this. The first thing I'm going to do, really, if I'm going to try to arrange a single string style banjo, first thing I'm going to do is just repeat the melody notes to fill in those gaps. So it's not going to sound that interesting, but it's going to give me a sense of how many notes I need to fill in between those melody notes. It's going to give me sort of an innate sense of that. So again, the melody is, so I might go just, and there I'm just repeating the melody note with the same note until it's time to go to the next note. And again, that's not that interesting, but it gets me going, okay? Now the next thing I might want to do is say, okay, repeating that note is not that interesting. What if I took a note, again, forward or backward from that and filled it in? I could go, like that, that's kind of using that D string, D string as a drone. Like that. Again, maybe not the most interesting thing you could do, but it's going to work. It'll get you to the next step, and then the next step is maybe figuring out, okay, I don't have that much room between these first three notes. It's just an eighth note. So if I want to do more of a run between the notes, maybe I just shift one of those notes a little bit and try something like this for that first little phrase. Now I'm toggling between this D note and a C note, and then between this E note and the F note. Okay, that'll work. Or I could say, what if I want to make it sound a little bluesy? Instead of the C note, I could go to the C sharp. That might be cool. Or maybe I could just go open to the B. Okay? Just work with those kind of things. Notes right next to it, half step off. That's cool. Or I could go full step. Okay? I could go open D note. I didn't like the sound of that, so I might toss that one away. This open B note. Don't really like the sound of that. Going too far away. So toss that. What it takes is just experimenting like that to find until you get where you find something you like to hear. All right? A lot of this is just going to be trial and error, and it's going to take some patience. When I interviewed Matt Flinner several weeks ago for a column in Bluegrass Unlimited magazine, I asked Matt what he thought one of the common problems were amongst students that he's taught over the years, and he said, patience. And I thought that was a great answer, because I find that a lot of times we're too much in a rush to try to work out an arrangement or learn a tune, whether it's from a tab or by ear. A lot of times what holds us back, and we're just in too much of a hurry to get it down. Or we learn one tune, we memorize it kind of, and then we jump over to the next tune instead of really spending time with the first tune and really getting it down solid. And so what we end up doing is we have 10, 15, 20 tunes that we can play okay, but none of them we can really play solid. So that patience thing makes a lot of sense. And years ago, I was visiting my friends Andy Falco and Tony Watt, and they were rooming with Noam Pikelny. Either one of them or both of them were living in Nashville and rooming with Noam Pikelny, phenomenal banjo player for the Punch Brothers. And Noam was in his bedroom, and he was working on his banjo, and I swear he worked the same lick over and over and over. It must have been, I don't know, at least an hour, maybe even more. I just kept hearing him as I was visiting with Andy and Tony back in the back bedroom, practicing that one thing over and over and over and over again. And I thought, man, I would never have the patience to sit there and do that one repeated thing so many times. But hey, that's why he's as good as he is, you know. He had the patience to sit there and really work it out. So when you're doing this kind of thing and you're trying to experiment with what notes around that melody note sound good and connect to the other notes in a way that's pleasing to the ear, experiment with notes that are half step away, 1 step away, step and a half away, whatever sounds good to you, and figure it out. And once you get that down, again, like I recommended before, get down the first 2 bars the way you want them to be, and then just work it over and over and over and over again until it gets in your muscle memory, till you don't have to think about it anymore, till you've really got it down, and then go to the next 2-bar phrase and do the same thing, and then connect those 4 bars. And then you'll really have it down. And it does take some patience and some time spent behind the banjo or whatever instrument you're playing to accomplish that. Anyway, so I like this. That second little phrase maybe sounds a little bit too repetitive, so I might do this. Might do this. So I'm reaching all the way up to that G note there. So that sounds good to me. I'm toggling between this melody note and this C note, and I'm going to the next melody note, and it's a little bit shifted off, eighth note off from the real where it lands in the tune, but that's okay. I'm just walking up. Now we got that space to fill in there. We could fill it in, or we could just let it have a little bit of pause. Sometimes when you're doing this single string style, it's a big flurry of notes coming at somebody all at once, like a sort of a rapid fire machine gun. Sometimes you want to leave some space, okay? So you could just leave some space there at the end. And before you start the next one, if I wanted to fill in that space, I could go. Like so. And then the answer to the theme starts just like the theme. I could end it and just leave some space. Or I could okay? So that's the theme. The answer to the theme. The sub-theme, again, like we talked about before in this song, is exactly like the theme. Okay? And again, I could just end it like that, leave a little space before the resolving phrase. The resolving phrase for Ultra Clark goes. Okay? And I could toggle. Again, I'm just going back and forth. Or I could do kind of a cliche ending phrase, which is kind of what we call a folded scale. I could go end it like that, or I could end it like, or I could end it like. So again, all I'm doing around those notes is going to a note that's one or half step or a whole step away, and then coming back or walking up the scale or down the scale. So it takes a little bit of patience, a little bit of practice, but you can get that in. So now we have an A part. I'm going to add a little pickup note, 2 pickup notes like that. And so here's the A part. Okay, so that's the A part. Now let's move on to the B part. Now remember the first phrase of the B part, the first 2-bar phrase went. So this, just a repeated G note, we could go add an A note in there, or F sharp. We can add that in there. Again, we're just looking for notes around that G note. Going up is an A, going back is an F sharp. We can go like so. For the next part, we have again, we could fill in notes. We could fill in like this for that second part of that measure. The second part of that phrase, right? Again, I'm just hitting that D note. Now I'll go up to the E note. So there's, again, we're just going to work around those. I like to put a little folding scale in there instead of going. I like to go. Okay? Listen to that again. That's kind of a cool thing. And again, all I'm doing is working around that melody and putting notes that are forward and backward of those melody notes, but I'm doing this folded scale. And again, a folded scale, I'm going to do a whole video on folded scales for all instruments later. A folded scale is taking a pattern and then repeating that pattern 1, 2, 3 times starting on a different note. So I start on my G note and I go, and I'm going to start on my B note and repeat that pattern. It's the same pattern relative to the G. You hear that? So that's the next 2 phrases of that song. Now we're going to go into that F. That's that F part. Here's the melody. So I've got. So I'm going to start the same way like I did before. Repeat that first part. But I'm going to go to that E note, and then I'm going to play a little lick over the F. So I'm playing, you can see my F chord is like this, so I'm doing this little toggle there. So I'm playing, coming on and off that F chord. And then I'm going to repeat my theme. Okay? And then I'm going to do the same resolving phrase to end the thing. Okay? So I got, for the B part. Alright, and so there you have Old Joe Clark in a single string style, the A part and B part. Next time we'll work on a melodic style arrangement, and then after that we'll try to mix it all together, Scruggs style, single string, and melodic style. Alright, we'll see you next time.